about AWS certification. And then just know from this day forward, this is going to be the last time that we have a study session. And we're not going to, and we don't do practice questions. Just know that tomorrow on study session 2, I'm going to do a little bit of talking about the certification study guide and the components that are in the guide. And then we're going to spend at least 10 minutes doing exam questions. And then on days 3 and 4, we're going to do nothing but practice exam questions, because I want to teach you how to use them to study for the exam. Because remember, the class is only going to cover like 60% of the material. You get another like 40%, 20% that you need to pick up. Okay. All right. Some quick things about the exam. By the way, if you're not interested in certification, I'm glad that you were here. Please feel free to be done. We're technically done for the day. We're closing at 5. So if you're like, I have no interest, please feel free to go. All right. Here's what you need to know. Bottom line is that the machine learning certification used to require you to have one of the blue certifications. So you used to have, is that even English? It was required that you had one of the associate level certifications before you could go after a specialty certification. Amazon changed that. Not quite sure why, because frankly, they still expect you to have that level of knowledge when you go into machine learning over and above the machine learning information. So my recommendation is that you at least have cloud practitioner level knowledge or solutions architect associates level knowledge before you go after machine learning. But I know we're under a crunch here, so let's just go ahead and sidestep that. But ideally, you would have an architect's level of knowledge, because they are going to ask you a lot of questions. Can you make that up by doing the exam practice questions? Absolutely. And maybe a little bit of study and maybe some hands-on, but just know that it's a harder road a little bit, but you can do it. It can be done. But ideally, you'd have an architect level of knowledge of AWS. Okay. Michael's like, Michael, you keep saying things to make it like we're going to fail. It's not going to work. No, it's going to work, but I want you to panic now. So if you are going to panic, I don't want you to panic 2 weeks before your exam. I want you to panic now. I want you to double down and put the 5 or 10 hours a week in now. And I want you to wait until February 28th to start panicking because you got your exam scheduled for March 10th. You got to start working now if you want to pass, because the probability is relatively low and we don't start putting the work in now. Okay. Just saying. Well, you can do it. Now, let's go take a look at the machine learning exam. So in here, by the way, of course, we could schedule the exam right away, which I'm going to talk about today, because there's a few caveats there. If you haven't taken an AWS exam before at home, just going to prepare you. But let's talk about the exam first. First of all, as I was corrected earlier, because I couldn't remember, right? This is a 65 question exam. The DevOps engineering exam, by the way, is 75 questions. That's why I got confused, because I actually took them back to back recently. 180 minutes to complete the exam, which of course, you can do the math. Well, hold on, Darshay. I'm gonna get to it. It's a good question. Hold on. So just know that means, by the way, that you've got a little bit less than 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, a little less than 3 minutes to actually do each question. This is important because if you linger too long on one question, you're gonna have to speed through some other questions. So just be prepared, right? So 65 questions, and it's going to be either multiple choice or multiple response. Now, in every single exam, there's an exam guide, which we're going to take a quick look at. Now, this exam guide answers questions like, well, this is what we expect you to know, right? Here's the recommended amount of experience that we recommend that you have in order to actually pass this exam. Here's the recommended knowledge, okay? And by the way, hold on, Darshay, that 75% is not totally accurate. So hold on just 1 second, because I got to explain that, right? That's the minimum passing score. That's not actually the passing score. So hold on just 1 second before you take that to heart, right? So here, by the way, here's some tasks that are considered out of scope, right? So we're not going to talk about EMR. We're not going to talk about advanced networking design. You're not going to have to develop an algorithm or regurgitate formulas, okay? Or do extensive hyperparameter optimization. That's not in scope. Did say it was multiple choice or multiple response. There are going to be 50 unanswered questions, 50 questions that count towards your score, and there's going to be 15 that don't count towards your score. This is important because you're going to get weird questions. Like they're going to ask you something about a service that you've never heard of before, and you're going to lose morale. But I want you to know that 15 of these 65 questions are going to be Amazon testing questions to see if they're valid or not for the exam, and whether you know them or don't know them, or should they include them. They're just going to be, it's like A/B testing. There's 15 B questions in here. They're them testing features, right? Now, so there's 15 unscored questions out of the 65. And technically the minimum passing score is 750, which means you absolutely have to get above a 750 to pass. But just to say this, the score shifts plus, plus sometimes 10, 20, 30 points, right? So be aware that, the exam like passing score can actually creep up based on how people are performing on the exam. But in general, you must get a 750 in order to pass, right? Now, don't freak out. We're going to have you train for 900s. I know. You're like, what? Yeah. We're going to have you train for 900s because you're going to probably score in the 800s, especially since you're going this quick. Although you could get 100, I'm not 1,000. I'm not going to knock anybody out of this whole thing. But just be aware that we're going to have you shoot for 800s to make sure that you pass, because it does vary based on what the average score has been recently. Amazon's really good at keeping that number as close to 750 as possible, but be aware that you want to shoot for 800s to pass. If you pass and you get a 760, 770, there was an element of luck to that. Okay. So we're going to be shooting for 800s. I'm going to tell you a quick but funny story. I just took the exam like 4 weeks ago to recertify. And I had to take the DevOps engineering exam to recertify pretty much the week before, which is, by the way, not a good combination. So kind of the similar pressure that you're under. The DevOps engineering exam is a huge exam in terms of swath of content. And of course, machine learning is a specialty exam. So that's always difficult. When I got done with the machine learning exam, which I had not taken in 3 years, 2 years, I was like, oh, I failed that exam because I forgot that there were 15 unscored questions, and I let the last 10 questions eat my morale. So I just want you to be super mindful of that. Those 15 questions are going to be completely off the wall. They're probably going to stand out. Don't let them discourage you because I got 7 of them wrong in a row. Like when I say wrong, you don't know what your answers are, but you know when you knew the answer to a question, and you know when you just guessed. When I guess at 7 questions in a row on one of these tests, that did not make me feel good. And bottom line is don't let that dishearten you. When I got to the end, I was like, oh, wait, I forgot about the 15 unscored questions. Then I hit submit, by the way, and I think I passed with like an 850 or something like that, which I thought was really good considering the amount of time I had to study for it. And I did better on that and felt worse about hitting the submit button than I did on the DevOps engineering exam, where I was like, man, I got this whole thing down. And I think I got like an 810 or something on that, which was not good, not my ideal score. But again, I was happy considering the amount of time I had to study for it. But regardless, just know that you want to shoot for 800s to pass this. 750 is the minimum passing score. You might need a 760, a 770 to actually pass. Okay. So bottom line, shoot for 800s, and that's what we're training you for. Is we're training you for 900s. Okay. Now, when you take the exam, it's going to cover certain contents. What content? It's going to cover these domains. Over a third is going to be about modeling, basically everything to do with models. Another like little less than 0.25% is going to be about exploratory data analysis. That includes visualizations, correcting, gaps in data, etc. The other like 40% of the exam is going to be data engineering, and then implementation and operations. Now you might say, Michael, that's awesome. What does that mean? Well, here it is. So first thing, if you're taking this exam, is I need you to go through these domains, and if you see a word that you don't know, you want to write that down. I don't care if it's in OneNote, Evernote, whatever note thing you want to use. But if you don't know what kinesis is, you need to at least know what kinesis is. If you don't know what kinesis fire hose is, you need to at least know what kinesis fire hose is. By the way, the practice exams are going to also force you to know these terms as well, because you're going to see them in the answers. And you want to know what this information is. You don't want to just get the answer right. You want to know why the other answers are wrong. Does that sound like perfection? It's not. Trust me. It's just striving, so you pass, right? So you can get that 80 or 90% to do it. So your first job is to go through this exam guide and figure out the words that you don't like. You're like, I've never even heard of glue, right? Now, EMR might also be useful to just at least know what it does. Batch, you should know what it does. You don't need to know how to implement it. SageMaker, yes, you need to know how to implement. But the rest of these, you just need to know that they exist and you need to know what they do. If you see Athena in here, what is that? What is a mechanical Turk? I've mentioned it twice. What is it for? So you need to go through here and figure out like what these are. If you don't know what an elbow plot is, you probably just want to know at least the definition of it, right? Create some flashcards, doodle about it, create a mind map that says, oh, this is a clustering concept. So we're going to talk about hierarchical clustering versus diagnosing clustering, right? That kind of thing. Treat this like a college class where you're going to have to dive in and mess with the data a little bit in order to really master the topic, okay? Once you get on it, by the way, it's not actually going to be that hard. Now, remember, modeling was 36% of the whole thing. So this is going to be where the bulk of your time is going to spend as far as like studying, right? A little over a third. Framing business problems, the appropriate model, right? So, we already, like, for example, we already talked about batch versus real time. We're going to get to regularization, cross-validation, model illustration. Yeah, we'll cover that to a certain degree. Some of this, by the way, isn't covered, right? Because remember, there's 3 other classes. So if you don't know what these are, you're going to definitely want to grab them and, start to dive into them a little bit. Don't worry, the certification study guide is going to fill in a lot of the gaps as well. So we have provided you with a body of material step-by-step that you can study that will definitely make sure you understand this. This course, like I said, is going to cover 80% of this. So we're going to talk about overfitting and underfitting. We're going to talk about area under the curve. We're going to talk about precision recall, RMSE, F1 score, at least on a superficial level. We're going to talk about confusion matrices. We're going to talk about A/B testing. We're going to cover that, okay? But your first job, come in here, figure out terms that you've never seen before. I'm also going to talk about CloudTrail and CloudWatch. I don't know if I'm going to talk about this because they assume that you have this, or Docker containers, which I'm going to have a video for. But again, you don't know what these mean, you need to start creating a list. My Nation, download this PDF and maybe just mark it up. Let me send you a link to this just in case you don't have it. By the way, if you don't have a consolidated area that you're tracking all the things that you do and do not know and the things that you're running into, I would start getting methodical. You're going to need it, right, to pass the exam. This is going to be true whether you're looking at the exam guide, the certification study guide, or if you take the practice exams, you're going to want to start captioning material. We're like, I don't even know what that means, right? I run into that all the time. It would not run into that in this space. I mean, in this ever widening ML space, I run into things all the time that I don't know anything about. Either you want to pick it up and learn about it, or you're like, I'm full up. I'm gonna leave it alone. Okay. So that's the first thing, is that you got the exam guide. It's 65 questions. 750 is the minimum passing score, but it can go north 10, 20, 30 points. So we're shooting for 800s. Okay. That's what we're looking for. So do note that in our training, we are training to 900s because we want to train you to 90%, and you should be fine. Now let's talk about scheduling the exam. You all have gotten 4 things from us that are in your student portal that are like not normal. Like if you took any other ML pipeline class, you wouldn't get these. 1, you got an exam voucher that gave you the exam for free. 2, you get a certification study guide. 3, you're getting access to supplemental labs. 4, you're getting access to practice exams for the material. So I'm going to talk about all of those over the next 4 days, but this was just to make sure that at least you knew how to use the exam guide and the details about the certification. Now let's talk about signing in. But before I do that, sorry, let's talk about scheduling the exam. Before I do that, does anyone have any questions about the exam guide and what I'm asking you to do with it? Okay. Yeah. It's like treat it like a college class and you get a final, right? You got to start compiling things down. All right. So let's say you clicked on schedule an exam. First thing it's going to ask you, to sign in. Now I want to be clear about this. I'm using an Amazon account, not an AWS account. Just to say this, first of all, don't use your Booz account to create an Amazon account. Sorry, let me phrase that. Do not use your Booz account to create an AWS account. You will get a call from security. Everybody's going to get a bunch of emails. They're going to ask you what the billing code is and what the justification is. Don't do that. Do not create an AWS account using your Booz. Just use your existing Amazon account. If you have your own personal Amazon account, just log into the training and certification site using your Amazon account, not your AWS account. Okay. And please do not use your Booz email here. You're going to get a call. We're going to log in on the left. Left. We're not logging in on the right. Unless you know you're part of the APN team, right? Then, if you know, then you already know how to do this, right? So we're going to sign in on the left. Now, when I click on sign in, my password manager is going to ask me a bunch of questions, and I'm actually going to move over to IT Amazonian, right? That's like kind of my personal professional email address. I'm going to sign in. Oh, wait, did I mean to do that? No, I did it right. I'm just thinking about it in my Amazon account. Wait, so then what happens is I'm going to go to my account, and what's going to happen is you're going to get redirected off of Amazon.com to a site called Cert Metrics. Here, you can actually see your profile, any exams that you registered for. You can see your exam history. You can see my sorted history of taking the recertification for the machine learning specialty. You can see that about 8 days prior, I took the DevOps engineering professional. Not recommended, right? And then, at this point, all the certifications, right? So you can see all your achieved certifications, right? You can see all your benefits. So just know, by the way, you get free practice exam vouchers and 50% off your next exam. You can steal my codes if you want to. They're all unfortunately invalid that you can see, right? But if you come over here and claim the benefit, it'll actually populate the field. Just know that you get 50% off exams once you pass your first exam. So Amazon really incentivizes you to take exams. And Booz loves exam. So okay. Yes, Thomas, the cooldown for the exam is 14 days. So if you take it, for example, let's say March 12th is your deadline. If you take it on February 27th or 28th, you'll have 14 days before you can take it again, right? Just to be clear, the voucher is only going to cover your exam once. If you take it a second time, that's going to be, reimbursable out of pocket, right? But you can take it 2 weeks after. They used to not have that restriction, but they got sick of people kind of like gaming the system. So Joel, I thought they told us to make an APN account. Who said that? Because if it was the APN team, great. Otherwise, I have not heard anything about that ever. So if you have information, please share it, because I have not heard anything from Booz about that. So if you know, just let me know. But from what I was told, is that unless you're a member of the APN team, right? Yeah, if you got it, that would be great, right? That would be awesome. Thank you for saying something. Okay. So also, by the way, just know that once you get a certification, you get a digital badge. So people can verify that you actually have a certification, and you can stick this in your emails. Anyway, moving on. That's not what we're here for. All right. So let's say you're going to register for an exam, right? I'm going to tell you that your voucher is good for Pearson VUE. By the way, has anyone gotten the voucher yet? Has anyone gotten it? Yes. Wasn't that kind of sketchy? Wasn't it sketchy? Like, it came from a company called X Voucher, right? And by the way, just so you know, X Voucher has been giving out AWS vouchers for years. I'm like, could you guys be any more like sketchy because if I'm running my spam classifier, you guys look like a spam team. But moving on. So good. So just so you're all forewarned, it might be in your spam folder. XVoucher is the company. It's not spam. It's real. Now I'm going to show you exactly where to stick that code that you got in email because it's not intuitive. All right, it only works for Pearson VUE, so don't use PSI. Now, when you click on that link, just like like the movie Inception, we've gone from Amazon to CertMetrics. Now we're inside of Pearson VUE's website. So we're way deep into the Inception rabbit hole at this point in time. Okay. Oh God, when did I get access to beta exams? Anyway, moving on. So here we are, and let's say I want to schedule an exam. I think I just clicked on the wrong thing. Oh yeah, I did. Sorry. Register for an exam is what I actually meant to click on. So when you click on register, by the way, you're still in the site, but you're going to choose to schedule with Pearson VUE. You're not going to schedule with PSI. So let's say machine learning. So I'm going to schedule with Pearson VUE. I just chose the machine learning exam. It's going to log me into the website. Ooh, Daniel, we definitely want you to have your voucher. Ideally, by the way, you want to schedule sooner rather than later. Not because there's a time constraint. It just, it puts like good pressure on you to do it. Take a look around in your spam folder and let me know if you don't see it. Let me just say this: email greg.wagner@webagesolutions.com. Okay. Email Greg and say, hey, Michael just went over testing. I don't have my voucher. Could we check and see where my voucher is at? Yeah. Oh, if you just took your class last week, sorry. Nope. Email Greg. I'm not going to even finish that. Bottom line is that I don't know, actually, Joel. The login for XVoucher, you should have gotten an email that had your voucher code in there. So I don't think you log into XVoucher. I think you get a code. But
in the email it does. So I received that same thing where it says that we have a voucher and to log in
yeah.
the info was given to us in a previous email, but I also don't have a previous email.
So what I might do at that point is that you should have been registered with your bh.com email address. Just say forgot password and it'll send it to you. Thank you, by the way. Who was that talking just now?
They're nuts.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I was actually in the middle of doing the password thing when that was brought up, so I was hoping to get to it before the question.
Perfect. Thank you for saying something. I've never actually gone through that process. They don't let me touch that stuff. So thank you for clarifying. Just to say this is that if you want to have an easier experience taking the exam, go to a testing center. If you do it online, at your home or office, I'm just going to forewarn you, like I've got 2 monitors here, stuff on my desk. I've actually got a little table right here that you can't see. This table is my testing table. I literally pull this table away from my desk, run a cable to it and put a laptop on it. So the reason is that if you do it at a testing center, you just bring 2 forms of ID, you walk in, you sit down, you do the test and everything's cool. If you do it at your home, you're going to require a video camera. It's going to require, a laptop or a desktop, but you can only have 1 monitor. You can't have anything on your desk. You can't wear a watch. That's all standard. And so bottom line, just know if you do it at home, you're going to need to like pull yourself into like an isolated environment because you also have to take pictures of all 4 sides of your desk and underneath it. You can't have a pet running around. You can't have a family member running around. You can't talk to yourself. You can't cover your face like this. And there's no breaks. 0. Okay. So you got a 3-hour exam. You're not going to be able to take a break. Now, the testing center is not going to change some of that, but it'll change a lot of it, and that you don't have to worry about your kid busting in, which my 14-year-old busted in and was like, hey, Dad. And if he had said, by the way, S3 is the answer, I would have failed the exam right away. Instead, they were like, someone just came into the room, sir. Can you please ask them to leave? And this will be your last warning. If someone else comes in, you fail. It's like, thank you. Thank you for clarifying. So if you can, take it at a testing center. right? And the pet's a problem, by the way, because they're acoustically fingerprinting the room. And so if they're running around with a collar on, making noise and whatnot, they're going to interrupt your exam to ask you questions like, can you please take the camera and rotate it around? Just don't do that, right? Go take it at a testing center. And if you're worried about it being COVID safe, which I totally get, call ahead of time. The centers are trying to be as proactive as possible. And quite frankly, you're isolated. So, so talk to your testing center if you decide to go that route. We're going to do the online version. How do I know about the dog thing, by the way? I love Frenchies, and my brother let me have his Frenchie. Right. And, he's like running around, and they drove the testing guys crazy. I almost failed, actually. So anyway, moving on. So your computer, by the way, please do not use your Boost computer. It's not going to go well. Just don't do it. Testing space. Make sure you read all of this information. You only need one ID if you do it online. You need 2 IDs if you go to a testing center, and you are going to show up 30 minutes for your exam. Okay. So you get an email on this when you sign up. Now you're going to choose your preferred written language, right? Then you're going to confirm. Why? Because this website really loves to confirm. Then you're going to basically give your firstborn, your secondborn, and any future winning lottery tickets that you make as far as like facial comparison policies go. Just kidding. None of that's true. But they are going to have you agree to a bunch of stuff, including, do you understand that you can only reschedule twice, and then the third time you have to cancel? You have to cancel 24 to 48 hours ahead of time. You can't touch your face. Here's acceptable forms of documentation. All this is here for you to read. Once you agree to that, guess what? They're going to ask you your preferred language, which it really cracks me up that the only verbal languages you can choose are English and Japanese. Just saying. What about Spanish, French, Chinese? I don't know. Any other language? Hindi? Anyway, moving on. So, Arabic? I mean, come on. Give me a break. Anyway, so here you can choose your date. Now, once you choose your time, I would highly recommend that you switch over to military time, unless military time really confuses you. And then pick a time where you are awake without coffee, because you're not going to be able to drink a stimulant. You can have no water or any personal hygiene products near you in any way, shape, or form. You need nothing within arm's reach, not even your phone. So just to be clear, make sure that it's a time when you're going to be awake. And let's say we do 6:30, which honestly is like a horrible time, but for me at least. Then it's going to ask you to confirm. And then what's going to happen is you're going to proceed to checkout. And guess what? This is where your voucher goes. Voucher goes here. You put it in here. You hit apply. All the billing information goes away. This goes to $0. You hit submit or next, and then you hit submit on the next page. You're done. You get a bunch of emails and you're done. Okay. What will happen is that Pearson VUE is immediately going to send you an email confirming your time, and you're going to stick it in your calendar, and you're going to stick an alarm for 30 minutes prior, because you need to be logged into Pearson VUE 30 minutes prior to your exam. And that's it. You've now zeroed that out. You've hit submit, and you now are signed up for your exam. Now, they're going to send you a reminder about acceptable spaces, the cancellation policy, testing your system. Please do all that. And Nicholas is right. Like, please do not use your Boost system. Zscaler is so unpredictable. It will block the site. And if you're gone from your exam because of a disconnect for more than 20 minutes, they're going to cancel the exam and you're going to lose the voucher. Okay. So don't do that. Well, Angela, like this, if you're like, okay, the question is asking, right? They don't want you covering your face because, people have misused that. So, yeah, it's kind of like not being able to go to school to use the bathroom at schools anymore because people have ruined that. So, anyway, moving on. So, well, I like to talk to myself, and I like to do this, like touch my beard. Nah, don't do that. Don't do that at all. Any questions about the process of going from scheduling an exam all the way into putting in your exam voucher, hitting next and getting signed up. The voucher should be an email. It should come from X voucher. If you don't have it, sign into the student portal and email Greg Wagner, and he can help you like get that resolved. Okay. But it should be in your email under X voucher.
So just as a heads up again, this is Derek. So I did change my password. I am able to log in. I do have this like cutesy little voucher type deal. When I click on it, I actually don't see a voucher. I have instructions for a voucher, but there is no voucher in